Hey guys, welcome back to Sankoma, the series where I talk about anything I want. And today we're going to be talking about add-ons and third-party tools for MMOs and generally any video game. I have talked about third-party tools and add-ons in the past and talked about how I used them and my experience with them. But after the incident with Omega and how I even saw the tweet where there was a bunch of Japanese players that was using add-ons, third-party tools, and basically having a greater view, you got to see the Xeno video to understand what I'm talking about, but they basically cheated when they were doing Omega, and they are technically the world first in terms of completing that ultimate. But I have been told in the comments and friends and other people on Twitter and the like that third-party tools and add-ons isn't really like the bad guy. They're not really the bad thing here. Truth be told, they are correct. Third-party tools and add-ons are really supposed to enhance your experience with MMOs. In fact, they enhance your experience in any video game. You gotta remember that add-ons is what created some of the best games that we have now, like League of Legends or Dota or even Team Fortress, since they come from add-ons from different games. The history with add-ons is that it was very positive, at least here in the States. And I can't really say what's up in Japan. They have their rules and they follow it. So when it comes to add-ons for MMOs, you can honestly think that, oh, it might just be okay, because there are MMOs and there are a lot of MMOs here in the States that use add-ons and third-party tools. There were a few comments that said that add-ons and third-party tools isn't part of MMO culture, and I tend to disagree, and we can disagree. We can agree to disagree here, but here, let me give you a few examples. We all know the big dog, World of Warcraft, has add-on support. There's also WildStar, when it was a game. Elder Scrolls Online has mod support, apparently. Runes of Magic, which I've never heard of. Alad's Online, which that's kind of new to me. Lord of the Rings Online, Firefall, Rift, The Old Republic. There's a bunch of MMOs that have add-ons or mod support or just mods in general that kind of cultivates a sense of better experience within the game. And what I mean by that is that these add-ons and mods really do enhance the experience to the people who are playing. For instance, and this is probably the best example I can give, while I was playing World of Warcraft, I wanted to have a UI that looked like Final Fantasy XIV, and lo and behold, there was an add-on for that. I never got it working, but when I was looking at these examples, these videos, and I thought that was kind of cool. I would love to have this while I'm playing World of Warcraft. And nothing about that UI change was going to change my experience with World of Warcraft. It wasn't going to change the gameplay or how I played the game. It was just a different UI, which did nothing to change the challenge of the game, how Mythic work, how raids work, nothing. But then again, I also used a whole bunch of UI in the most basic of ways, and people did call me out for that, but at the same time, I was really new to World of Warcraft. And Final Fantasy is no exception. There are add-ons and mods for Final Fantasy XIV. For example, there are chat bubbles, and I've heard this from Pyromancer, where he said chat bubbles really enhances the experience while he's playing the game, whereas I'm so used to looking at the bottom left corner in the box to see what my friends are saying that it doesn't even bother me that there would be chat bubbles. I don't think there would be any kind of change if there were chat bubbles. I know chat bubbles is kind of like a World of Warcraft thing, because in WoW, there are chat bubbles from players and it just pops over their head. Meanwhile, I'm still staring at the bottom left corner looking at the message box. In that case, it doesn't change how you play the game whatsoever. There is no change in the raids, in Savage, in the trials, nothing. It's just a kind of aesthetic thing where you have a bubble pop over your head and has what you said in the message box just appear over your head. And the biggest and most used mod that I can think of is probably shaders in Final Fantasy XIV, and let's just be honest here. 14 looks kind of gray, it can look kind of lifeless if you're not in a major city, and if you're not in Shadowbringers, because that big gigantic world with a bunch of purple pink trees is kind of cool looking, but that's besides the point. It's not as colorful as what people would like it to be. That's why we have these shaders where the color and contrast can be upped and super visualized and ultra, super GPX max or whatever. I don't really care. I play the game without any kind of mods or third-party tools, but I have looked into those shaders and they're actually pretty good looking. Then you got clothing mods, beard mods, hair mods, mods that help put helmets on the Hrothgar and the Vera. You know what I'm saying here? It's very helpful to have these mods and add-ons. Like, they just do it real quick, whereas the team of 14 is not really thinking about doing anything with the Vera helmets or the Hrothgar helmets for a while now. Not saying they won't ever get to it, I'm just saying they're kind of slow. Point is, there are a lot of helpful add-ons and third-party tools that you can use when it comes comes to 14 that enhances your experience without changing the core function of the game. But then there is the other side to third-party tools, and I guess you guys will know what I'm talking about when I say I hate CactBot. If there was something that was close to a cheating tool in Final Fantasy XIV, it's CactBot, and I'm talking about it because I don't really care about the program whatsoever. If it erased tomorrow, I would not weep a tear. The thing about CactBot is that it kind of takes away your experience when it comes to savage or hard content. I've been in raids where the lead was using CactBot to get past the savage, but at the same time, it's not there to be used as a way to get past it, it's supposed to be used as a guide. Meanwhile, me and 2 other friends who were joined up into this team are looking at each other saying like, are they really using CactBot to get past this savage even though we've gotten past this savage without a CactBot at all? And I understand there are some people who look at CactBot and say it's not that bad, it's just there to be a guide because it's kind of like DBM from World of Warcraft. Now that program, I always thought that it was something that you had to use, not something that you could skip out on. You needed this program in order to play the harder raids in World of Warcraft. I think I've made a mistake in that, and I do apologize if I made that kind of misinterpretation. I am now 100% sure that you can go through all of World of Warcraft without DBM or any kind of tool that helps you with raiding or any of the harder content like Mythic. I have now done the raids, I have now done Mythic, and I can honestly say that I really like that kind of content, and I wish there was something a little bit similar in 14, but not exactly the same. But I digress. The add-ons and third-party tools in World of Warcraft is seen in a different light than 14, ultimately. And seeing how Omega Ultimate was first done by people who are using third-party tools, and Yoshi P is basically saying, nope, that doesn't count, well, you can see how they look at these third-party tools and add-ons, and, well, there you go. He's not going to acknowledge it at all. And just so that I can get this out of the way, when I was talking about in my last video, there was a part where they said that someone on the inside was leaking these videos. I do apologize for not talking about that, but yeah, somebody on the inside leaked the videos for 14, and someone's going to get fired. But anyway, I do understand what people mean when they say that add-ons and third-party tools is going to be a detriment to Final Fantasy XIV. As I said with Deadly Boss Mob, there was a point in time where I believe that the devs who were creating the raids in World of Warcraft had to work around the fact that people were using these third-party tools. And because of that, they actually had to make bosses and challenges that required you to have third-party tools or add-ons in order to get past the challenge. Now, I am begging somebody to correct this because I honestly want to be wrong about this. I honestly thought that this was a thing, and you guys can correct me in the comments if I am wrong, and please do, because I don't want to believe that World of Warcraft had to make content that required you to have add-ons and third-party tools just to get past that challenge. It just, I don't know, it blows my mind. I remember taking on Absolute Virtue when I was a kid. I was one of the first people to take on Absolute Virtue, look it up, for Final Fantasy XI, and trust me, it took almost 18 hours for us to try to beat that in one sitting. We multiple times went back day after day to try to beat that boss, and again, 18 hours. I think I could have died. The thing about that though is that there was no DBM, there was no add-ons, there was no third-party tools that could work in a way that tells us how to beat Absolute Virtue. And it was one of the hardest and if not the most dangerous bosses that anyone has ever faced in an MMO. If we had third-party tools to help us get past that boss, then I'd probably be singing a different tune, but in this case, I have the scars of that boss fight, and it's never going to leave my mind. However, at the end of the day, if you have games or MMOs that do support mods or add-on support, then you might see a different game come out of it because the add-ons and mods might change the core game for the worse. You never know. And yes, I know mods and add-ons are free, but if you have to go out of your way to pay for a game, be it an MMO or not, and you have to go on the internet and find this add-on in order to put it into the game because you need it in order to actually play the game, I think there's a problem. Add-on, mods, third-party tools, that is part of MMO culture, and I know some people are going to go out of their way and say, no, they are not, they haven't seen it in a lot of MMOs. The major MMOs really do have mods that are attached to them. They have add-ons, they have third-party tools that come with those MMOs because it just seems like a normal kind of thing. And yes, I know it comes down to whether you believe it or not that video games in general, not just MMOs, walk next to add-ons and mods, which they do. do. I don't think add-ons, third-party tools, or mods are a bad thing. They can help people play video games in a way that normal people can play video games. You know, there are people with bad eyesight, or maybe they want to change the controller a bit. You know, the stuff that would be something that is not in a video game in a standard edition. But I totally understand when people tell me that there are downsides to having add-ons, mods, and third-party tools in your video games and MMOs in general. Like, I haven't even talked about the cheating tools that are in like a billion video games. You see them all the time, be it like the current Overwatch or whether you're playing Call of Duty or not. I think aim mods is like the biggest thing when it comes to first-person shooters or in video games in general. It's kind of disgusting. And in this case, if we're talking about MMOs, we're talking about just things that might help people take on challenges within the game. I'm not sure if it's called helping, whether or not the game is telling you how to beat the challenge. Like, if the tool is telling you how to beat the challenge instead of you taking on the challenge with your own grit, I think that's cheating. But if it warns you of certain attacks, well, I think that might be a gray area for me. I can't really identify that as cheating, more or less maybe guiding you. But then again, they tell you when attacks come up and when you're supposed to dodge and where you're supposed to stand, and those are the kind of tools that I don't like. I would rather for the person to figure out where to stand, the person to figure out what to do when they see the attack bar come up, or know how certain combos come up next to each other. Even though there isn't a telegraph, they just learn it because they know what the fight is all about. And even in this instance, when we're talking about Omega Ultimate, well, the only cheating tool that I have bore witness in this Ultimate is the extreme zoom out mod, where you can take the camera and basically see the entire arena. And that is indeed an advantage that you have over everybody else if you can pull your camera out so far and nobody else can. There might be other cheating tools within the game, I just don't know, so we'll just leave that to Yoshi P alone. And when it comes to data mining and leaks, I'm just going to stay in my corner. The only thing I can say for add-ons, mods, and third-party tools for Final Fantasy XIV is just don't get caught. Please, don't get caught. We don't know you're using it. Yoshi P doesn't know you're using it. He can't peer in your computer to see that you're using it. Just don't stream it. Don't get caught. That's it. Don't get caught. But if you're the kind of person like the bots that I see in Uldal, Limsa, and Gridania, yeah, you can go fuck yourself. Moral of the story is, add-ons, third-party tools, and mods are part of gaming culture. It is especially in MMO culture. And it seems like there are a lot of people out there who can't seem to do content that is as hard as Ultimate or even Savage without having third-party tools implemented. And as far as I know, Final Fantasy XIV is made so that you don't have to use any kind of mods or third-party tools. I do agree that shaders and chat bubbles don't harm the game at all, and it's purely aesthetic, especially when it comes to UI mods. There's nothing being changed within the game, and I think those are fine. But then when you start having crosses, circles, lines, and squares all over the place telling you where the attacks are going to be, yeah, you're kind of spoiling the game here. This is not what the game was made for, and you don't need it. I say this as a reminder to everyone. Do not show what mod you have on stream. Do not go around saying I'm using this mod and happily implementing it. You don't want to talk about it. We know that Final Fantasy XIV is not allowed to have third-party tools, so stop talking about it. And I only say this not because I'm a stickler for the rules. Again, I don't care if you have a UI mod, a helmet mod, a beard mod, a hat mod, or something. I don't care, as long as it doesn't like break the game or show you how to beat a boss. No, what I'm actually worried about is when Yoshi P finally had enough of this bullshit and starts implementing easy anti-cheat into Final Fantasy XIV and ruining the experience for everyone. Or even worse, and I hope this never happens, he may stop making ultimates altogether, and that would suck for a lot of people who love doing that stuff. And when that happens, well, I told y'all.